Okay, I've been harvesting some worms under the light there. See, I've got the light there, and I put in little piles. And then when you lift up the piles, the worms accumulate in the bottom. See, most of these piles I've already gotten most of the worms out, but you can see there are a few at the bottom of that one. If I pick it up, pick up another one, none in that one. These have been pretty well picked clean. There are not many worms. There's one in that one, bottom of that one. And those are packaged there. They're going to be sent to California. That package of worms, there's 600 worms in there. They'll be boxed up and mailed to California on Monday. And here's another box that I just started. I dumped a small quantity of worms, probably. There are about 300 worms in that little pile there. You can see they're starting to move around a little bit. It won't take them long, and they'll all be buried in there. Usually my cats are hanging out with me here and causing trouble. They don't seem to bother the worms though. Fortunately, they don't eat worms, or I'd have a real problem. See, there are all my worm boxes. I got a bunch on the ping pong table, or a bunch way over there in the back of the barn, and then there's this big line of them. These are all worm boxes. I've got over 50 boxes at this point in time. See, there are a couple more over there. I find these cat food containers are very good for keeping the worms. I don't like them quite as well as the big boxes, but they do work. And they're free. Over here I got this is the compost that I've taken out of boxes. You can see this is all the compost. What I do is you usually put a banana on the top to attract the remaining worms after I've dumped a box. I get quite a few worms out of these boxes before I sift them. This is my sifter here where I sift compost when I've gotten all the worms out. See, this is the end product here. You can see what beautiful stuff this is. This stuff is just fantastic. This is why I'm growing all these worms. I do a lot of gardening, and this really helps the plants. Here's some of my big elephant ear plants that I sell at the farmer's market. They look a little seedy now, but as soon as spring comes, I get them out. They'll be doing well. What I do with them, I'll take a handful of compost, see, and I just spread it around the plant like that. Then when I water them, they're getting all that good nutrition going down into the roots. So I've got all these boxes. These are all boxes of compost that I'm gradually getting the worms out of, and it won't be too long before I dump what's in there and put it through the sifter and come out with a good compost. Here's one of my big boxes. This is sort of a catch-all. What I do with this box is any extra worms I have at any point in time, I just toss them in here. There are probably 3,000 or 4,000 worms in there at least. They're churning away, eating everything in sight. See these worms here in this bag here, they're gradually running away from that light. They don't like that light. They'll get into that newspaper I have there. Now these worms in this box here, that pile's gotten a lot smaller since we first came over and looked at it. In another few minutes, those worms will be out of sight completely. You won't see them at all. Now I'll go over and I'll give you a little look at some of these other boxes. That box there, and I can't see too much going in there, but there are plenty of worms in it. You can see on these boxes I put a lot of shredded newspaper that comes out of the shredder on the top of the food. It neatens them up and it keeps the fruit flies away. And here's a box that's sort of interesting. You can see They've eaten so much here. There was an old pumpkin that's sort of broken up there, the hard shell from the pumpkin after it dried out a little bit. But these worms have eaten most everything in the box. Just a little newspaper showing. I've got to feed them some more and put some more shredded newspaper on the top. Now this is an interesting box here. This is a box of African night crawlers. Now you can see these babies, they're all around the outer edge. See, it's quite a long worm. You see how long those worms are? They crawl up on the side. I don't worry about it. Some people think that that's bad when they're on the side. They don't normally get out. Every once in a while one will escape. But this box really needs a little more food. I've neglected a little bit. I've got to give them more food and put some fresh paper on it. That may be why so many of them are coming out. Because see, they're quite a long worm, the African night crawlers, and they do a really nice job of composting. You can see all the compost on the top of this box here. That's all good, rich compost there. Supposedly, the African night crawlers like it a little bit warmer, but this year I brought them into the bottom of my barn here where it's quite cold, and they seem to be doing all right. This is another box of African night crawlers. It's not quite as far advanced. They've been eating a lot of newspaper. I can tell by the color of the compost on the top. They need more food also. When you have as many boxes as I do, you can't seem to get enough